Hey guys, Caleb here with DSLR Video Shooter, and today we are taking a close look at the Genus Tech Polar Eclipse, which is a fader ND and a polarizer in one filter. This filter right here is 2-in-1. It is a polarizer and a fader ND, so you really only need this if you're going to be going out and shooting a lot of stuff involving light reflections. So for those of you who don't know what a polarizer is, essentially and simply put, it rejects light reflections, which is really important if you do any kind of outdoor photography or video. Before I get too far ahead of myself, let's head over to the bench, take a close look, then we'll look at some footage and talk about the specs of this awesome little filter. All right, guys, let's take a close look at the Genus Solar Eclipse ND Fader. So here it is. It comes in two different sizes, which I have written on my hand with prices so I don't forget. This is the 77mm, which is the smaller of the two sizes. And then we have an 82mm. The cost is $200 for the 77 and $245 for the 82. I've already got it dusty. It's been out quite a bit, and I'm really impressed with how much this thing does and how well it does it. You would think with a polarizer, which this has, and the fader, which is essentially two polarizers working against each other, which this has, you would have some funky artifacts, but Genus has done a great job ensuring that those are not prominent. So let's talk about actually using this and how it works. So you have the base, or the third of what looks like 3 rings here. That's what attaches to your camera. Then on the very front, where you have the labels here, that is the ND filter. So you'll notice if I spin that here, that darkens things up significantly, and I can obviously lighten it back up. And then the center ring here is the polarizer, which has a really nice little brass knob here that you can adjust it. And what's cool is you'll notice when I spin this, that both rings move together. So once you have the exposure set with your ND, you can then play with the polarizer to get the correct effect that you want, and we'll look at that here in a second. And it's going to maintain your ND level, which is really slick, and they did a great job with making sure this is nice and smooth, and things aren't going to shift on you once you have your settings set. So let's talk about actually using this. There is a minimum and maximum setting for the actual ND. You really want to make sure you're within that range. If you go outside of that range, you might get that X effect or artifact that a lot of people see, and it's just bad news. So you want to make sure you're between minimum and maximum. So the idea is choose whatever settings you want for your camera. If you want to shoot at f 1.2, go ahead and set that up. Add the filter, set the ND level that you want. Let's say it's close to max for an example. Then you're going to take this knob and set the polarization that you want. Simply explained, a polarizer is going to reject or block light and light reflections from certain angles. So as you spin this polarizer around, it's going to block different light reflections. And the best way to explain this is just to look at some footage. In each of these shots, I start by setting up the camera with the settings I want to use. So my aperture, ISO, all that good stuff. Then I set the exposure level. So I get the correct exposure for the image using the ND on the filter. Once that is done, I then begin to spin the polarizer. And you'll see in the footage that it's going to start cycling through all the different angles that it's going to be rejecting light reflections. A good example of this are leaves and grass and things like that. Those type of greenery are very vibrant normally, but with cameras, often there is a lot of light reflection coming off of those, and we're losing that vibrancy. This results in kind of a pale, desaturated look, but using the polarizer, we can reject those and get that rich, gorgeous look that we're going for. Another popular use is car windshields, and as you can see here, a bumper of a car, it's really going to reject light very well. So now I'm going to show you just a bunch of shots before, after ND is added, and after the polarizer has been added to see how powerful this one filter can be for your camera. So there you have it. That is the Genus Polar Eclipse ND filter, and I really do dig it because it is 2-in-1. If you're going to be only buying one filter and only want to have one of these in your bag, that's a great alternative to having a bunch of different filters, obviously. The question is, should you purchase one of these? I would say if you're going to be doing any kind of outdoor video or photography, I think it's a great move. I think that the Polarizer is a must if you're going to be doing lots and lots of outdoor footage. If you're in a studio most of the time, not going to be shooting a lot outdoors, you're probably not going to be able to take full advantage of the Polarizer. That said, you still can use it for several different lighting applications. It's not just for outdoor stuff, but that's where it really shines. And then, you know, you have to take into account, obviously, your budget, because this is a slightly more expensive filter. Obviously, you're getting what you pay for, but there's a lot of options out there. So if you just need ND, a great option is just to get cheap ND filters, not faders, but actual ND filters. And then a fader is a nice option because it's convenient, although it's not necessarily as good quality, and that's a whole nother video. But if you just want something that's going to work in almost any situation, this is the ticket for sure. So I'll have a link to it below. It is now released. This is actually a unit that Genus sent me to test. But they are available now, so you can pick them up, as well as a bunch of other accessories, of course. So that's it for this review. Stay tuned for more reviews, tutorials here at DSLR Video Shooter. Hit that subscribe button if you want to keep up to date with all of that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.